Welcome to Legal Beagle.
Hello and welcome to Legal Beagle with attorney Kristina Lyke, founder of Lyke Law PLLC. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today's episode is the Parenting Time Journey, Engaging Families in Coordination. Kristina, great to see you again.
Great to see you.
Before we start today, is there anything new that the audience may feel is helpful to be aware of?
I don't have anything new today, but
Okay.
maybe next time.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to keep asking you just in
All
case.
right.
All right, can you start by explaining your role as a parenting time coordinator and how it differs from other family law professionals like mediators or custody evaluators?
Absolutely. So I'm a parenting time coordinator. I'm also a mediator too, as well, and an attorney. But the parenting time coordinator, I believe I'm the only one that is certified in the Tri-County area. The Tri-County area is Eaton County, Clinton, Ingham, Livingston, and Shiawassee. So what we do differently than the caseworkers at court or when you're in FIGC meetings at the front of the court is that we actually get to meet with the parents and more of a basis, like numerous times. We get to also meet with the children, and the children is not just for the preference of the children. It's actually, we get to talk to the children. We get to find out like how their day is going. We talk to them. I actually play games with the kids so they can get them to talk without their parents being around. And I always have another adult with me, just so that we're in the office and we're going. I even had a child bring a puppy in one time, and that helped them to talk about mom and dad. And we actually found out what was going on and how to make sure that we were helping this child have a better relationship with mom and dad. And we learned what the communication problem was with mom and dad too, as well. So the differences between that is that parenting time coordinator actually facilitates the parents being able to come up with agreements so that they can effectively raise their child or children. And we take the best interest factors into effect. And it really depends on whether or not we get an order from the court on whether or not what kind of discretion we have. So whatever agreement that we have that we get either with the two parents, that would actually be binding, and they are ordered to do that. So usually the order will say, if you choose a facilitator, a parenting time coordinator, you actually are ordered whatever agreement that you agreed to, you actually have to abide by that. So it's the
Okay.
same thing as an order. So that's the difference.
What are some of the common challenges that families face when it comes to parenting time, and how do you help to resolve these issues?
A lot of the challenges that I see is mental health issues with children, whether we're seeing a lot of autism being on the spectrum, ADHD, we see a lot of that. We see a lot of parents not being able to communicate with each other. One parent wants to be better than the other parent, like, hey, I will buy you a pony if you go and spend more time with me and tell the judge that you want to spend more time. And they really think that that's going to work. But a lot of these judges are really smart, and they know that if a child has actually been bribed or told by a parent what to say. And I can read right into that too as well. And I really would say that children need to be outside of divorces, and parents really need to make sure that they're being adults and not having the children be used as pawns and in the middle of it. And I see that too often, and I remind that to the parties all the time, because whatever happens to them and how they react, the children are going to mimic them in the future. And so we want to be good examples to these children.
Yeah, the way you put that, being used as pawns, is a really it's a great description, and very sad when something like that happens. It's definitely not a fair thing for the kid. How do you approach creating a parenting time schedule that respects both the needs of the child and the parent's circumstances? Because I feel like that could be difficult to balance sometimes.
It is. And so I will say this, the two things that I do is this: I meet with the parents. I might need to meet with them separately too. But I also meet with the children. And like I stated earlier, that we might do some play therapy, play games, because it gets them to talking, because I'm a stranger to them. They don't know who I am. I mean, they might think, who is this, lady that I'm seeing? But luckily, I have a dog named Judge in our office, and they usually just love that white little furry guy. And so that gets them talking too as well. What I do is I always tell the parents, like, address their issues. What kind of goals do they want to achieve in this process? And there might be some goals that are unachievable, but then I talk to the child and try to find out what are the real issues underlining. And the children, usually I can see what's going on a lot of times with the parents, why they're being able to not being able to communicate a lot of times. And sometimes I can see that the children are actually manipulating the parents too as well. And
Mm.
so I have to go back to the parents and actually explain to them about manipulation and trying to make sure that you also respect the other parent in front of that child and not disparage that parent in front of that child. And that's a big, huge thing that a lot of parents forget to do. And so what I do is I take all those factors in there and I say, okay, let's come back together. Obviously the child's gone, at home, and we come to this resolution. Like, for instance, let's say it's about medication. We might put an agreement into effect that mom has to go and talk to dad about this medication prior to the child going and taking it. And dad doesn't usually respond to mom when she goes and emails. So I will put something in the agreement that he has 48 hours to respond to mom. And if he doesn't respond, then he has to contact me, or she
Mhm.
has to contact me, either way. And then there's also, like, for parenting time factors, I look at how is the days going? Does mom work from 7 in the morning to 5 at night? And then does dad get off work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Is dad going to be able to go and pick the child up after school? Okay, that might work out better and have the child stay at dad's house. Mom picks them up at dad's house. And then that way the child is actually being watched. There's no child care that's being paid for. And the child can actually go to mom's house at nighttime, to spend the night
Okay.
like that.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, it's just nuanced. You just gotta kind of play each one out as its own kind of story, right? I mean, every
Right.
situation is different. Yeah, that makes
Right, and
sense.
every child's different, every parent's
Yeah.
different, and
Mhm.
listening is a big key factor, not talking over them. And I love to talk.
Me
But,
too.
the 12 best interest factors are where we start looking at that. We also have to look at who's got the ECE, which is the established custodial environment, and I also have the parents bring me what their order was, like their last order, and, give me all their concerns and what they wanna see, happens in the future.
Can you kind of walk us through the process? So when a family comes to you seeking a parenting time coordinator, what kind of questions do you start with? How do you engage with the families? How do you get the process started?
Sure. First of all, if they have attorneys, because sometimes they do a consent order with their attorneys, and their attorney might recommend myself. So I talk to the attorneys first, find out what they feel is the underlying issue, and then what I do is I send out. Well, I don't. My secretary does. She's wonderful. She sends out a contract, which is a retainer agreement, but we also send out what is a contract between the parents. And what it says is, I'm going to be respectful during that time period of meeting with mom and dad. So let's say I'm mom, I'm going to be respectful to the other parent. I'm not going to bully the other parent during this process. I'm going to listen and try to be positive. So I give, like, a lot of these rules. I'm not going to cuss. If I feel that I'm not being listened to, I am going to address that with Miss Lyke, and that might be a private caucus time period. So I have them go through these rules themselves. If they have questions, obviously they can call me. But then I have them go through a domestic violence screening too as well, because that's actually ordered of us from the court rules. And they go through that, and I have to look at all that to make sure that nobody's going to be in jeopardy while having this parenting time coordination time period with the parents. Sometimes we have to do it on Zoom, or maybe it's something that we can handle at one at a time. And then sometimes we'll talk about how the other party feels like they might get overpowered because they're more quieter than the other party. So we work with that too as well. So I try to, after I go and have them sign everything and talk about it, I privately talk to the parents one-on-one, and I actually see what are their goals that they want to see. What's going on? Like, what kind of problems are they facing? Is it transportation issue, pickup times? Is it mom's not allowing the child to go over the house, dad's not allowing the child to go over the house at the time period, holidays are being broken up? What's going on? How can I help this process, and what can we do to make sure it's better? And I also make sure that they bring a picture of their children with them, because if there's a dispute or anything, I bring that picture out and say, we're doing this for this child, remember?
Mhm. Yeah. That can, I bet that can be powerful.
It is. It's a very powerful
Yeah,
tool.
that's a good idea for sure. Do you have a lot of situations where one or perhaps both parents are uncooperative or hostile during the coordinating process?
At the very beginning, yes, because I mean, they got divorced for a reason. A
Right.
lot of people get divorced for a reason. It's not because they're best friends. A lot of times they're ill will. They have some ill will feelings. Some people just, tell me I hate her or I hate him. And I look at it this way. I talk to them. I say, okay, so let's try to dial that back and say, what did she give you or what did he give you, that the reason why you're in this process right now, right? And I
Mhm.
hold up that picture and I show them their child, right? Don't you love this child? And don't you, appreciate what this individual, because without mom, without dad, you wouldn't have been able to have this child, right? So that kind of helps get them into, yeah, you're right. And I love being called I'm right.
Don't we all?
Yes. But what I do is then I go to the next step and I say, all right, we want to show the other parent respect, because even though you feel, well, she doesn't give me any respect or he doesn't give me any respect. Well, two wrongs don't make a right. So
Right,
if
yeah.
you show her respect, maybe she'll show you respect and kind, and she'll be like, wow, what's going on here? And so anytime that they start, like maybe there might be somebody that's being a little bit louder or aggressive during that time period, I show them their rules that they signed too. And I just quietly put them up and I say, now remember, these are the rules that you signed, that you are going to try to listen and try to make sure that you put your child first and that you are going to make the best out of this process. And that usually helps.
You're like a post-marriage counselor after
You
the
know,
marriage is over.
Sometimes, and a lot of times the parenting time coordination is for a lot of high conflict resolution cases. And I will say this, it does help parents not having to go to court as much, especially in these high conflict, because although, attorneys might make oodles of money on these custody cases, think about what your children actually are seeing in those transcripts later
Yeah,
on in life. And we want them to be able to say, hey, my mom and dad, they went through a divorce, but they did the best they could to raise me. And I never heard my dad say anything bad about my mom, never heard my mom say anything bad. And, if you have to say something as a parent, because they're going to irritate you, they still know what buttons to push on you,
absolutely, yeah.
right? Go talk to maybe your counselor about it. Go talk to your pastor. Or go talk to maybe your neighbor, and just make sure it's confident. It's in confidence, because we don't want that to ruin the process of the parenting time coordination.
Are there any situations, like, as far as, like, when a kid gets older, where they could have any sort of say in how the time is distributed, or is it not are they not involved in that decision at all?
So, that's a really good question. So, in the 12 best interest factors, there's actually what is called the preference of the child, and they take that into effect with the court system. And that's all that they can get is the preference. So, I can actually talk to them a little bit more and ask them why. And I can find out if one party is trying to manipulate the child or not,
Mhm.
especially if they come in with an order beforehand that has joint physical custody, and the child wants to be with dad full time. Well, he might be getting a new car out of it. But no, there isn't an age per se that you can go and say, okay, I'm finally 13, I get to do whatever I want. And that's actually kind of a scary thing to actually give children control. And parents have to realize too, I kind of preach this quite a bit during sessions. And as an attorney, I preach this too, that who's the parent? Are you the parent or is the child the parent?
Mhm.
Because if the child's the parent, they might not be doing such a great job on you right now.
Hmm.
right? And you're not raising your children to be able to get a job later on in the future. You're not being able to have them go and play sports with all the other kids. They're not going to be able to do that. They're going to think that the world belongs to them and they should get everything that they want.
Yeah, my wife will say that to me a lot. Like if I'm like, he's doing this or he's doing that, or about our son, she'll be like, "You're the parent. Like the hell you get this stuff." And I'm just like, "Yeah, I know you're right," but it's always like, "Oh, but what do I have to deal with after that?" But yeah, that's a good point in these situations. Like you gotta remember that you're the parent in this situation, and
Right.
yeah.
'Cause kids will manipulate you.
Yes.
Kids are cool. I mean, I'll tell you what, I've learned a lot from kids over the years, and they're our future, and we got to make sure that we protect them. But you got to make sure too that these parents are actually doing what's right for them, and not letting them rule the nest, because they're going to find out that a lot of times emancipation can happen. Or they can go and get in juvenile court, or
Mhm.
something bad could happen to those kids, and we don't want anything to happen to the ones that we love.
So for anyone listening who might be struggling with parenting time issues, what advice do you give? What should they do to sort of, get in with a parenting time coordinator and get some assistance?
Well, I suggest that you look online first of all. First of all, you're going to need to get an agreement with the other parent if you don't have an attorney. And then you're going to have to actually, you don't have to get an order per se, but I personally would recommend that you get an order from the court and maybe have one attorney draft that order for you if both parties are willing to do that. It does save a lot of money for parents, but it also, what parenting time coordinators don't realize is this, or excuse me, parents don't realize is this, is that as a parenting time coordinator, to help your children, I get to see the doctor's notes. I get to see therapist notes. I get to see what kind of medication the children are taking. That helps me if I needed to make a decision on what kind of medication to give to the child, because I'm not a doctor and I'm not going to do anything without talking to those doctors, and I'm not going to prescribe anything, obviously, because I'm not a doctor. That'd be
Hmm.
complete malpractice. But
Hmm.
I would want to make sure that I speak to those doctors and therapists, because those are the experts, and then bring it back to the parents and see if they can come to an agreement. But I would also tell the parents this, is that it's also very healthy to make sure that you have a parenting time coordinator, because not only, like I said earlier, it doesn't cost as much money, but it also helps the children see their parents getting along, being not disparaging each other, and actually trying to make the best out of their childhood. And remember, again, the child's going to mimic everything that those parents do.
Absolutely.
And one thing I would also suggest is this, is don't bring your significant other, because usually people want to bring their girlfriends or their boyfriends. I am a big proponent of not having girlfriends and boyfriends involved unless they're living in the household. And I know this is not part of the parenting time episode here, but I also suggest this. Don't have the children meet all these girlfriends and boyfriends until you are actually serious
Right.
about the relationship after the order is entered, because too often I see children, it's in and out, and that's one of the factors of the best interest factors, stability. And people have all these daddies or all these mommies, stepmommies coming in, and it's not healthy for the children.
No, yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, great tips as always, Christina. And thank you for tuning in to Legal Beagle with attorney Kristina Lyke. To connect with Christina, head to likelaw.com. That's Lyke. And please like this video and don't forget to subscribe to our channel too. We appreciate it. Christina, I appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much for being here.
thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.